Imagine a prosperous city, full of wealth, parties, and joy, but also consumed by corruption, vices, and immorality. This was the setting of two ancient cities mentioned in the Bible, Sodom and Gomorrah. Powerful cities that, according to the scriptures, were destroyed by an act of divine justice. But what really happened in Sodom and Gomorrah? Why were these cities so prosperous and grand, consumed by fire and brimstone? And more importantly, what can we learn from this story that happened thousands of years ago? Let's dive into one of the Bible's most dramatic stories, full of lessons that still resonate in our world today. Sodom and Gomorrah weren't just prosperous cities. They were symbols of corruption. Their inhabitants were involved in violence, immorality, and perversion. The Bible describes a people who were completely distant from God, with no repentance or desire for change. Even Abraham, upon learning of Sodom and Gomorrah's situation, questioned God about the possibility of saving these cities, if there were at least 10 righteous people. But as it turns out, the corruption was so deep that there was no hope of salvation. And it was precisely at this moment that God decided to act. He chose to send 2 angels to Sodom to warn Lot, Abraham's nephew, about the fate of the city. Lot, despite being surrounded by so much corruption, was a righteous man and would be the only one saved, but he had to flee quickly. Before everything unfolded, God made one last gesture of mercy, sent the angels to warn Lot, flee the city. Destruction will come soon, but you can save your life. The angels told Lot and his family to leave without looking back. There was no time to waste. It was the last chance. Lot and his family hurried to leave, but something happened. While fleeing, Lot's wife couldn't resist. She looked back, and this glance had devastating consequences. She was turned into a pillar of salt, an eternal reminder of disobedience. This event teaches us that, often, nostalgia and attachment to the past can prevent us from moving forward and obeying God. Then, fire and brimstone began to fall from the sky. God's judgment was poured out on the 2 cities. Within minutes, the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were consumed by divine fire. The land, once full of life and prosperity, was now empty, destroyed. All the inhabitants and riches vanished, and the cities became eternal symbols of God's justice. But this destruction wasn't just an act of punishment. It was also an affirmation that God's justice is infallible. Sin, when unrepented, leads to serious and eternal consequences. Now, looking at this story, we ask, what does it have to teach us? We live in a world where violence, selfishness, and corruption are still rampant. Are we, in some way, walking down the same path as Sodom and Gomorrah? This story invites us to reflect on what we are doing with our own world. Are we acting with justice? Or are we ignoring divine warnings and living selfishly without repentance? The story of Sodom and Gomorrah also speaks to us about the importance of acting when time is short. God gave these cities one last chance, but disobedience and attachment to the past prevented them from being saved. And today, what are we doing with the chances God gives us? Are we listening to the warnings and seeking a better path? The story of Sodom and Gomorrah is a reflection of God's justice and mercy. Though it was a severe act, the destruction of these cities is also a clear warning. God is just, and our responsibility is to live according to the principles He has set. The lesson of Sodom and Gomorrah is about repentance, living with integrity, and trusting in God's promises. If you found this story compelling, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think we are repeating the mistakes of Sodom and Gomorrah today? Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking content.